Hello, and welcome back to this latest edition of the WasteBuild pod audiocast thing. Clearly, we've still not quite settled on the name. My name's Fraser, and this edition is a little different from the last one, notably because we have visual aids as well as the audio commentary. Very exciting. Now, to set the scene, WasteBuild is a live event hosted in Amsterdam, focused exclusively on circular solutions for the construction industry. Now, why is that a thing? Well, the built environment is such a huge consumer of raw materials, a producer of carbon emissions, and a creator of waste streams, that decarbonising the sector is one of the most important and effective ways of tackling the climate emergency. Our first event last December was a huge success, and we're looking forward to the next one back in Amsterdam at the NDSM this November. But in the meantime, while we're all stuck inside, we thought we'd package up the content from last year and share this with anyone who wants to listen. This latest session is all about the part collaborations and partnerships have to play in delivering circular schemes. Chaired by David Greenfield from the Circular Economy Club. In fact, David chaired the majority of the sessions across the 2 days last year and was absolutely incredible. Marthijn Pool from Space&Matter. Ron Jacobs from Kloeckner Metals ODS, one of our founder partners last year. Fulco Treffers from 12N Urban Matters, and Martijn Horsman from the Schiphol Group. As ever, bios and more information, it's all available on the website, www.wastebuild.com. Now, there's a little audio interference during the final presentation, and when I pass over to David, he is mid-sentence. But this is still a bit of a work in progress, and hopefully you do still find it interesting and useful for our collective solitary confinement. So, without further ado, David, it's over to you.
And we've got one more panel debate. And we're going to be looking at the partnership approach to delivering high-value circular ambitions. We've got four, again, exceptionally qualified speakers. And I'm going to ask Marthijn Pool from Space&Matter to come and give us 5 minutes. Martijn.
Just 5 minutes?
Just 5 minutes. You can have that.
All right. Yes, it works. All right. Thank you, guys. Space&Matter office we've set up 10 years ago, mainly architecture, spatial planning office, but we also do lots of concept development. I'll briefly introduce you. Let's make it 6 minutes, 3 projects, 2 minutes each. The Keuvel, mostly a reuse project in a temporary settlement, and then how that turned into Schoon Schip, which is a floating neighborhood developed by the community itself. And then I'll quickly show you some images of a project we're doing in China. We're still in Amsterdam. This is the north of Amsterdam. What you see on the right is the Keuvel. Actually, this is a former industrial area, and so industry is retreating. Let's say the heavy industries are moving out. New residential developments are coming in, and I'll explain you the Keuvel project as well as the Schoon Schip project, which is a floating project. This is where you see the Keuvel already in place. It's a former shipyard, so there was well, it's not a dry dock, but you could get a ship out of the water to do repair works and maintenance works. This piece of land has been obsolete, so not fit for use for about 20 years because of the pollution of the industry taking place here prior to that. Where we said, actually, well, we need a piece of land to make affordable workspaces for creatives and artists to still work in the city, and we don't want to be pushed out of the city. We find this piece of land, but it's polluted, so if there's a developer who wants to develop it, he will have to pay 1 million, 2 million euros to do the sanitation of the soil first. So that will not happen, at least not in times of crisis, and because we speak like 5-6 years back. We got the opportunity to develop a plan on land where we actually brought second-hand houseboats on the land, so we don't touch the land, we just have these boats sitting on the land, as what you can see here. We can get these houseboats for free because there's people in that squatted in the 80s. You put your houseboat in one of the canals in the city. Now you can sell your houseboat for a few €100,000, but the value is not in the boat. The value is in the docking place of that boat. So actually people want to get rid of old boats, and then we say, okay, we can pick it up for free because we have a piece of land, which we also have for free. And we put these boats on land and we provide artists like affordable workspaces. But because we're here just for 10 years, you can rent here, but it needs to be compensated with a substantial time effort, and you need to be willing to upcycle these boats to make them energy self-sufficient, improve the insulation, and make them entirely off the grid. So after 10 years, we actually upcycle these boats and put them back into the water. So actually it's a shipyard again, and in the meanwhile we use it as affordable art spaces. That's in place. You can have a look in the north of Amsterdam. So actually what we do here, that's a piece of continuous innovation. So we install solar panels. We have a blockchain-based smart grid, which is now trading the energy amongst the users of the different boats. There's a small aquaponic farm. There was a biogas boat, but the thing exploded and sunk. But okay, it's an experimental playground, so not everything is a success. But there's 1,200 square meters of workable surface spread in 14 boats. So it's a very, well, intriguing example of how to use like polluted land as an added value to the city, how to use waste and waste-considered boats as an added value for our arts community. And actually now it's a circular economy flagship, and because we do lots of experiments here and innovate and will continue to do so in the next 5 years. So we learn a lot, we test a lot, and from this lab, actually, we implement technology and knowledge in new build projects. This is what I already explained, and the connection between the different solar panels on the different boats, which is actually traded as Juliets, and that's a local currency to make the trade happening. And that smart grid is already implemented in the next project, which is a regenerative, self-sufficient floating community. So what you see here, this is a body of water in the former harbor front, let's say, which is now a residential neighborhood, 49 families on 30 houseboats that established, and we enabled them to actually do the project development themselves. We guided them through the process to make energy self-sufficient floating homes with a strong collaboration between the neighbors. So also what you see here, it's quite technological. And so the previous project was more using waste, and actually this is more about how do we install technology to make it self-regenerative, and not that much about using waste, but more preventing that we have to use resources from elsewhere, but once we're there, to make the life cycle self-regenerative to prevent causing waste. And the project is there, so you can also visit it. They are close by, so this is what's installed right now. Actually, it's a smart community, and the people also trade the energy. We try to reduce our waste and our footprint as much as possible. There's a collective fleet of electronic vehicles that's being shared amongst the community, and to maximize mobility, but by less vehicles in your backyard. We are also off the grid from the aspect of black water and gray water, because we have a decentralized biorefinery, which is even generating heat. It's similar to the biogas boat, but this is a more professional installation. And then maybe one more minute to show you what's going on in China. We're working on a village project, so this is not an urban development, but it's a development outside of the bigger cities. Villages are running empty because people move to the city, so what to do with some old buildings in a Chinese context. It's a hotel development, so it will be a hospitality resort. Actually, what you see here, this is a cutout of an old school building. There is concrete slabs, what we cut off some pieces of the slabs and to create this cascade, and then the cascade becomes a rooftop park, and there's the hotel rooms beneath it, and it's just like a gimmick, but it's getting in place. There's an old factory building, and how to use the old factory building. We actually open it up and make the park go inside, and then plug in hotel rooms or small loft spaces to show the beauty of this former factory space connecting to your hotel space. Well, this is just architecture. Where it actually becomes much more interesting and more relevant to talk about today is how do we create the awareness amongst our visitors that if you're in a hotel space and using old buildings and going on a retreat from the big city, the China inland tourism is booming, but to create the awareness of a eco-flow, and you need food, you need linen, you need local produce. So how to make this local landscape into a productive landscape. And that's where we installed smaller pavilions. So one pavilion is growing herbs. That's the one on the left side. Another one, that's where we bring the coffee dirt and actually grow the mushrooms. Another one, I think we use plants to dye the linen. You can have the dragon plants create purple pigments to dry your linen if you want purple linen, and some other showcase examples. And mainly for creating awareness and showing how we can actually close the cycles of food, waste, and water. That's it. Oh.
Thank you very much, Martin. Take a seat, and I'd like to ask Ron Jacobs to come up and give your 5-minute presentation. Ron's from Kloeckner Metals ODS. Would you like the microphone or the stand? And there's your clicker.
Next, yeah.
Lovely. Thank you, Ron.
Hello, everybody. I'm from the industry, so the industry has to learn a lot of new principles. These are the old principles, and we're doing quite all right. What we are doing is steel distribution in general, and in particular, I'm responsible for the facade department, and we sell facade systems in steel. This is our truck. We got a few of those, and they drive through the Netherlands, Belgium, and where we supply facades in fire-rated systems, high spans. So architects might like projects like these. It's complicated. We do technical workout calculations for our customers who produce the facades. We don't produce facades. We supply the system and the technology. We make white doors. We make black doors. And they're always a little bit out of the ordinary. We supply old systems. And this is actually in, I think it was 2014, we got a question, can you renovate this? And we thought, yeah, we might renovate this. Because actually, you see this graph. We were thinking about the technical lifespan of this system, which was by then nearly 50 years old. Now the system is 50 years old, and we said to the owner of this building, you could renovate this only if the profile is still fit to be renovated. So we made a little study and we found out that the profile was still okay, but maybe the cover at the outside was maybe outdated. So we upgraded an old system to become new again. We then asked the NIBE from Bussum for the life cycle analysis. How do you calculate the technical life cycle of a steel facade system? And actually it was really qualified as top of the market. So we were very happy, and we thought all the construction companies would call us and say, well, you've got the best facade system in the world, so we want to buy it. But that's a bit tricky because it costs a little investment. So we had to come up with another idea, which is facade as a service, maybe. Then maybe integrated with other suppliers like a steel construction system, which is not Janssen, and we combined the two. So we got steel construction combined with steel facades as a hybrid. So they sell a little less, we sell a little less to come up with a more clever solution, which is a hybrid. And it's both steel, so this looks totally different than our super elegant facade profile, but you can make very intelligent buildings with solutions like this. Okay, I'm pressing next. Yeah. This is a project where we teamed up with the GTB lab, and we studied together with the team about how should you make reversible connections if you want to use the building again. You need intelligent connections. And we actually got half of this pavilion in Amsterdam today. Next. So we took half of it because this is going on the road again to Heerlen next month. And we thought we can stop in Amsterdam and show the principles of how to connect in a reversible way. So come over later on and we'll show you. So now we have to come up with a market solution. Okay, how do you sell a system like this? Because we're only in the first stage, design with the architect, build with our customer, and all the rest, we don't care. Have a good technical life and hope to never see you again. This is not the way we can work in the market. So we founded a foundation to come up with a market solution. Very technical, but we're there in the design, build, use, and harvest stage of the market. Might take 5 years, might take 20 years, whatever. We monitor, we take the data to use again. So we had pilot projects in Hoofddorp, at the Valley. We supplied a facade, we leased it, so we finance it. We take waste from big projects to put on our harvest map and maybe use, so this is reversible logistics. We have to find out how this works. We've never done it before, so now we're taking things back, which is pretty difficult in an organization like ours. But actually, so the facade from Brussels is in BIM to be, well, this is reversible logistics, to be used in Leiden at the field, maybe. They want it, they can have it. We modify it. This is another project for Leiden, which is called a blikvanger. Translated in English, it's eye catcher. But it's actually also made out of cans, Coca-Cola cans. Because you might have to pay a little fee to take the cans back to the shop. So we put it in the little pavilion. So when you think, where can we build this? How many minutes? 1. Okay. Let's build all the roofs in Amsterdam, in Rotterdam, with tiny houses, whatever, floating houses maybe. We have very light, interesting, this is also the guys from Oostkaart are using harvested steel material. We can put this in gardens, on roofs. We've put it at the Tuin van Brett with door architects, just as an example. And this is actually it. So we're doing it, it's difficult, but let's try and do it better next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. Right, okay, we've got 2 more presenters before we have the panel discussion. So I'd like to invite, is the mic working? Have I got 2 mics on? I'd like to invite Fulco Treffers from 12N Urban Matters. There we go.
Thanks.
And here is your clicker.
Thanks. Well, thanks for inviting me. This panel discussion was about the partnership approach, and somehow it made me think on what to show, and I decided not to show any pictures, not to show any pictures of buildings, because when we're talking about the partnership approach, it's about our roles, our language, our who we are, and what we do. So, for example, this is what I've been doing some bigger projects in the last years. And this is what we usually write it down as architects or project managers or in building industry. I founded an incubator. I did a project for 400 houses, which is called Space&Matter. I will tell you a little bit more about it later. A platform hotspot for circularity in Eindhoven, about 600 square meters. There is a spot in Utrecht, 9,000 square meters for circular building in the cultural industries. In Ukraine, I'm quite often working in Ukraine at the moment. I did an urban vision for 300,000 residents city, etc., etc. We put in numbers, we put in those things that we can measure easily. We make it a little bit technical very often. And but maybe this is for me much more interesting for this panel discussion that we're having in a minute. Because what did I do? What was my role? I was a founder. I was a center midfielder, as I always called it, in this temporary art center. I was a quarter maker of this circularity hotspot. I was doing urban acupuncture in times of war. I was an inspirator, an innovator. I may have been raised or educated as an architect and an urban planner, but my role is totally different every time, and I think that counts for many of us, but we very often stick to that what we learned we should be. And I try not to learn what not to be what I learned. I try to be what is necessary in a specific urban situation. So that's why I called myself, instead of what I used to be, urban designer, I call myself somebody who works with urban matters. And in this case, I always say it's about designing, not only designing the building or the landscape or the urban vision, but it's much more often, and I never learned it in that way, but I learned it by designing the process. Who talks to who? What language do we speak? What instruments do we use? So now I'm doing a project in a small village city in Hoorn, in the north of the Netherlands, and we only are going to use infographics, not architectural pictures, not words, only infographics. We kind of try to use that as our main communication tool. And things like that, they help. But then you also need to redefine partners and redefine the necessary roles that you need in the specific project by the goals that you want to have. And the partnership, in Space&Matter, for example, we decided to have the partnership totally together with all the future residents. It was a new building. There was nobody living there, and there were 400 social houses going to be built. And we asked to the general public in Eindhoven, if you want to live here, what are your expectations, what are your wishes? And we put them on the chair of being the owner, the one who tells the client, together with the Social Housing Corporation as a developer. And they together made this project, and we just wanted to have the best social housing we could build. And in the end, we won 4 architecture prizes, 2 in the Netherlands and 2 in Eindhoven. But it was not our goal. Our goal was to make good social housing. And so the line between professionalism and the end user, in this case, was disappearing. And I see it more and more often. I hear it in stories also, that this partnership approach means that you don't stand on a platform like there as a designer or as a developer and you say what is necessary. But the end user knows much more, gets the information easier. He is somehow involved in other projects and other talents, and he demands more influence. He doesn't demand it in a literal way, but he can help by having more influence. And this is a huge chance to change for success in this system that we need to change. So in this case, I was wondering who actually owns what, and I didn't have the answers on this, but I just wanted to show it. So what is actually the ownership of the architect? It's creativity, skills, or he owns maybe conceptual thinking, but that's pretty much it. What is the ownership of the demolisher, the end user, the developer, the investor, the municipality, the earth, the community, whatever? And it's very interesting in every project to decide what is, to decide what your answers are on these questions. And I hope this works, because this is going to be a video about the Glasgreen project that we just started a year ago. It's about 20 circular houses in Eindhoven, also on Stripe S for people who know it. And this is a project about what does circularity mean to social housing? Not only technology, as I see many presentations already. How can we build it? What is the measurements? What is the price? But also about how do we use it? How do we maintain it? So if we make a beautiful building, beautiful social housing with the best circular goals that we can get, and as soon as the first end user, the renter comes in, the resident comes in, and he just paints everything orange because that's the color he or she likes. And it's like the worst paint you can buy in the supermarket or in the whatever. Then all the effort has been for nothing. So how is it going to be used, and how are we going to build in a way that the end user knows it, experiences it, and also uses it in the right way? Do we going to set up rules again? What you can and cannot do? I'm not sure. That's exactly where we are now. So we have 20 houses in experiment because they want to upscale it. The Social Housing Corporation Woonbedrijf wants to upscale it to every year they build 500 houses. So, well, you can imagine what an influence they can have. Now we try with 20 buildings what is right and what is not. And we have, out of these 20 houses, 7 residents already involved. So we also were going to test what 7 of the involved residents are doing and what the other 13 are doing after they live there. So we're going to monitor the process for the first few years of living, which is going to start pretty much November, December next year. We made a small video. We made actually 11 small videos, but I show only one, about why they joined.
Ik zoek woonruimte.
Op zoek naar een woning.
Ik was op zoek naar een woning.
Op zoek samen aan een woning, we willen samen gaan wonen. En we horen dit project over duurzaam en dat vonden we heel interessant om daar aan mee te doen.
We hebben een projectje.
Ik ga meedoen.
Een uitdaging om te zien of je ook daar sociale huurwoningen van kan maken.
Ik doe mee omdat ik denk dat dit super relevant is. En het ook van belang is om nu te beginnen met handelen.
Omdat wij als gemeente op zoek zijn naar initiatieven in de stad die de dingen doen.
Dat hoe we nu bezig zijn met het bouwen, dat niet de toekomst is.
Je kunt er niet langer uitstellen.
Glaskring gaat laten zien dat circulair bouwen wel kan.
En ik vind het leuk om te kijken hoe je oude materialen weer kunt hergebruiken.
Inspraak te hebben in een eigen woning, op een plek als Strijp S met deze circulaire invalshoek.
Om zo een minder grote ecologische afdruk achter te laten.
Grenzen opzoeken.
Dat juist bij grote bouwbedrijven, woningbouwcorporaties, dat als we daar de slag kunnen maken, dan hebben we het goed gedaan.
En ik doe hier vooral aan mee omdat ik zie dat het echt gaat gebeuren. Het gaat echt in de praktijk ook uitgevoerd worden en het triggert mij.
Ja, goud.
These people were partly the residents, partly the demolishers, partly the architects, the project, whatever I was in this project, I am in this project, the innovator maybe, and altogether that's the only way we think we can make it happen, because we want to close the circle not only in materials and technology, but also close the circle in people and knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And our final contributor for the panel is Marthijn Horsman from Schiphol Group. Martin. There we go. Thank you very much.
So nice to say Schiphol, huh? I will briefly introduce you to where I truly found my purpose in a really small project. I got my inspiration from my daughter for doing this because it's a funny thing for her in her presentations, and it's actually something that is like doing something completely different. The inspiration is obviously British, you might know. I was to develop a new building for the morgue at Schiphol. It's a pretty serious job, and I thought it was time to do things different. I will tell you more about the project because it's really a project about partnership, about doing things together. So we created actually a joint awareness, a joint perspective, a joint interest, and joint transparency, which gave us a joint achievement. So we took all the people together, all the decision makers, the people who are going to use the building, the people who are going to create the building by design and construction, and we put them through a couple of tools, and in the end we all found that there was only one thing that could bound everything together. Our joint perspective was respect, and it is respect for obviously all the dead people that are being transferred through the morgue, and the people working with these dead people and helping the families that come collect or bring the dead people to be going on their literally last travel, and obviously respect for the next generations and the earth. Pretty much for someone in commercial real estate, I think it's really something that puts your mind together and makes you wonder, why didn't we do this before? I decided to make this a cradle-to-cradle inspired project because we had some piece of land that was there for a limited time, and then you should not build something that could be there forever, and you don't want to end up the people that rent your place in some sort of crappy building as well. So we had some tools, so we went through workshops to find our purpose, to find the respect actually that we discovered in this project. We made a roadmap on things that were possible when we were going to design the building, and it gives you a view of what could be possible afterwards. Maybe you can make things different afterwards because there's new techniques that now are non-proven but then might be proven. And we also used the market consultation for that to find people that were able to connect us to maybe possible solutions for our building. And that really opened up because we didn't talk to all these people individually, but we actually put them all together in a room, and we had a really lively discussion about cradle to cradle and why would we do that. In the end, of course, we needed to have material passports for all the ingredients of the building. And I think that one of the most beautiful things that really have to do with respect is the biomimicry part of it. I have some examples of biomimicry. It's just like nature is doing around you. You feel really comfortable in nature, and when you feel comfortable in some sort of situation, then this situation is like escaped through nature. So I really think that biomimicry is the key for success for all this sort of activities. So this is actually the building. So I'm not going to talk about my role at Schiphol. You can ask me later about it, but the discussion was about partnership. So what we did is we made a morgue for the Zorgdienstengroup who operates the morgue. They have about 2,500 deceased people per year going through the morgue, and it's a lot of people that have migrated to the Netherlands, and after they die, they go back to, I think 80% is going back to Morocco or Turkey. And it's multicultural because it's not a building for Islamic people, it's a building for everyone. And in the end, we succeeded to make a beautiful building which gives all the proper respect that you would expect for this function in about the busiest part of Schiphol. And of course, it's designed for this assembly because we need to be able to disassemble it and put it back somewhere else, or maybe not. So I've put some pictures. It's a small building. You can just see that there's a public side and there's an airside side. So people are coming in on the land side, and the deceased people will be entering and exiting on the air side. And I have some views of how the building looks like here. And people are always asking me like, wow, you made a really, really extraordinary building because it's cradle to cradle. I would like to see it. And then I can tell them, and you can see at the pictures, it's just like a regular building. It's nothing more than that. It's just a building. But it's a good building, and I'm really proud of it. And I really like to talk about it. And this is my contribution to what we're talking about in partnership, in doing things together, doing good together. Thank you.
If I could ask the other contributors to come and sit down, that would be great. Right, we've got some time for some questions. Really, really interesting approach, this. Partnerships, I think what has been demonstrated very, very well is that all of these projects probably wouldn't have happened if there hadn't been partnerships in place. And as somebody who's worked with partnerships and put partnerships together over the last 20 years, I think one of the challenges is how do you actually keep the partnership going? You can get the right people together and start a partnership, but how do you continue it? Who wants to, Martin? I've got a choice of two Martins, so I can.
Well, I did not mention the specific subject of partnerships that much, but obviously there are. In the Geuvel and the artists project, we established the community first, and so the network of end users, and then together with them we established the project, and the same we did for the floating housing community. But what makes the partnership tick and what brings it together, what makes the bricks and mortar actually come together, I think that's the common goal or the common interest, the shared ambitions and values like respect. And of course, there's different tasks and subdivision of responsibility, but it comes together to really aim for that same goal and the common ground to believe in, to actually go beyond a standard project, I'd say.
And you mentioned respect, and I think that's a really, really good word, and I know
because obviously in every project things get tough. Like I've never had an easy project actually. So then
hands up anybody who's had an easy project. No, I thought respect is a word that you used. I think trust is another one which is really key for partnerships. Martin, do you want?
Yeah, trust and transparency is key. It's about your goal and your ambition. It should be a goal that everyone wants to achieve, and you don't need different goals. You have one goal. That's what it's about. And what makes it really difficult, that you're going through phases. You're going through a design phase, and you work with this developer from the contractor, and then the contractor will hand over it to his construction colleagues, and you have to explain everything all over again because it's different people and they don't really have a clue about what you're doing. And then when you finally finalize the building and you start using it, then someone comes for maintenance and you really have to explain everything all over again. In the end, we will get there. Let's say we've learned a lot from this cute little building.
Yeah, no, I think you mentioned all of the different trades, and I think for me that's one of the really interesting things about partnerships. If you don't know what the partnership should look like, i.e. the whole supply chain, it might not be a partnership, right?
Yeah, so we're somewhere in the middle of a supply chain with raw materials, and we speak a lot with architects. Architects are very enthusiastic to participate in this type of cooperation. We have a hard time convincing our customers who build actually the products because they are stuck in the linear economy.
Indeed.
My boss also, actually. So I have to explain to my boss that this really makes sense. So you need to convince all the participants. They are asking us constantly, what do we get out of this? And we tell them simply, well, you get the ticket to 2030. Have you already thought about how do we build 50% with reused materials? Because nobody can do this at the moment. We are trying to come up with a solution, but we're only trying. So this is really a lot of convincing, but we're also sure the value of the proposition is really in there. So if we can take it out and make it look really logical and explain it to the end user, I think it will work. We need a lot of trust, respect for the building product. Don't throw it away. There's a lot of stuff being thrown away, so we need really to come up with a lot of things. It's small now, but we have to make it bigger, and we have 10 years now to come with 50% of the solution, and then, well, the rest has to follow.
Fulco, I think just building on that, one of the things you mentioned was your different roles and the roles that you've had. And I think one word for me that explains a lot of what you're doing is a facilitator of the vision and trying to help the partnership understand the vision and how to deliver the vision. Is that something that you feel that you are, or is that?
Yeah, sometimes I am, and sometimes facilitating can come in different ways. So sometimes facilitating is by just showing a good design by myself or by somebody else. But when you hear these stories, I'm now working on facilitating, let's say, the upscaling, because for me that's the most important urban matter at this moment. We know how to do it on a small scale, on a one-on-one project for one architect. It's been done. It's been done for 98% recycled material or bio-based or circular material. But the upscaling is new, and it's new for two reasons. There is not always so much reused material or bio-based material available, and the second reason is the participation approach. So everybody who needs to be involved. And that is my facilitating role at this moment in many projects, to upscale it. I'm not going to do any small projects anymore, because that's been done. So now is the next step, and if we want to call it facilitator or innovator or jump to the next level, or I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we need all these languages, and also your boss. What language does he speak, and what interest? Sometimes it's that, but that's the easy answer. If you got to talk with respect to each other, the interesting word, and with trust, then sometimes it's something else. Yeah. It's not this. It's my kids, or it's my grandchildren, and we have to find that, and then they are interested. This guy who was the contractor in the video, he said, it triggers me that it's actually going to happen. So his vision on circular building is very often it's just small projects that are not going to happen, is nothing for me. It's not in his world. And this project, he said, I know it's going to happen because these are the same guys that built Space&Matter, and that happened in the end. So then it's trust and it's respect, and then he wants to join. Is it in his belly, in his heart? No, but he has triggers that he can be rewarded for, and that's language. It's just translating all the time.
Language. I'll come to the audience in a second. I think that's so empowering, because I think one of the things that we are starting to see is there are lots of really good projects, but we haven't seen it lifted, and taking it to, I'll use a phrase which I'm going to use all over the place now, hedonistic circularity. I love that.
Preach what you practice.
Indeed, walk the talk. Have you guys got any questions for our panel? If you have, put your hand up. One over here. I'm going to have to run down here. There we go. If you could give your name and where you're from, that'd be lovely.
Hi, I'm Abigail, and I'm from Malta. I come from a consultation company, and I come from the industry. So what Ron Jacobs was saying is very true. In order to convince clients to go for materials which are circular, to go for a circular economy, is sometimes tough. And I can say this because, I mean, the companies who have a vision and which know that circular economy is going to be beneficial in the long run, maybe it's not so hard to convince. But others which do not have such a vision, it's very, very challenging, because, as you said, it all boils down to the ROI and to the actual profit at the end of the day. What I wanted to ask is, do you think that from an EU Commission side, from a grants and schemes, there is, we know that the EU at the moment is focusing a lot on energy efficiency, renewables, so on and so forth. When it comes to circular economy, do you think that there is enough being done at the moment?
Who wants to take that one? Ron?
Well, I think there's a lot going on at the moment. For us, it's tough to get to the financial support, because they really look at us and say, Kloeckner, all right. 9,000 people working there, they're multinational, so they can do it on their own. But we can't. We are talking with banks. We got this great idea. Can you finance it? No, don't think so. So we need really also support in getting to the people who really want to invest with us for this idea. So yeah, it's difficult. There's enough going on, but it's especially tough for us because we're not a nice little cuddly startup company. We're big, ugly, Yeah, it's a disadvantage for us at the moment, but we'll get there. So we're positive, optimistic.
Martin, in Schiphol, how did you get around the cost aspect?
We can do about everything as long as it doesn't involve extra money or extra hands. So it's really a tough challenge, but it's something that has to be done. And we agreed on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation to be a zero waste airport in 2030, and we decided to be a zero emissions airport as well. So that's for our own operation then, because obviously airplanes fly on fuel, and that's
I was going to say that's a really big ambition.
Yeah, but we're also putting our efforts in stimulating the market and the aviation industry to get to biofuels and synthetic fuels. I'm not going to tell you more about that, but what's in fact, you were asking about energy transition and circular. We've made a roadmap, which is last Tuesday our board has agreed on the roadmap on the steps we have to take to get to these goals in 2030 and beyond. And energy is actually measurable. You know how much energy you consume, and you know where you consume it, and you can put the trias energetica into work, and you can do something about it. When it comes to materials, CO2 embedding, it's really, really difficult. And our CFO knows a lot about euros, and she says it's a different euro than the value of my company. And I disagree, because when the water will be at somewhere halfway our departures level, what's then the value of the company? If you now know what to do and you can act on it, then you should do it, and don't leave the trash for your followers because you're only there for 4 years. It's like politics, actually.
Lovely, Martin.
Yeah, great question actually. Yeah. Like on a European level, I cannot give an example, but actually I have to give gratitude and credits to this municipality of Amsterdam, because they launched the pilot project, like 5 plots of land to build circular projects. And so you have to bid on the most circular proposition. And then, of course, there's a cap on the land value, and the land value should go down, as I mentioned in the previous project. To give you an example, the Schoon Schip, the floating project, of course, installing that entire technological ecosystem to make it self-sufficient and independent, that takes a lot of money. Where do we get the money from? Well, and it's always the money circle that's the difficult part. So we need to have a cut on one place to do an additional investment somewhere else, and then in the life cycle it can take care of itself. But the city of Amsterdam is doing a good job. So if cities like Amsterdam and other cities need to be stimulated, I think then there should be European proposals to stimulate cities to eventually stimulate developers or architects and businesses. So it should trickle down in that sense. Hopefully.
I think that's a really, really important point. It needs leadership at a European level. It needs leadership at a UN world level. And we're COP25 is going on at the moment. We're running a roundtable next week, but it's for 12 people. We need to get out of however many thousand. We need to get a lot more embedded policy and demonstration. Fulco, you wanted to just add to that, and then we are going to have to say thank you.
And it is also about the system that is behind it, about the money system. So when a contractor is still working with a percentage, what we call in Dutch startkosten, I don't know what it's in English. So the end cost, still costs, yeah, I think so, yeah. Well, the end cost, so like risk cost, as a percentage of the amount of material and the amount of money he can spend, then it's contrary to one of the most important circular ambitions to reduce and refuse as much as possible. So he is not in favor of reducing or refusing because that is contrary to the system of how he works financially. So we also the same, which was the discussion earlier about how can we make other systems like ground prices. We can also make other systems like our own deals between each other as investors, as end users, as developers, as whatever, as contractors, as architects. Because as long as we keep on going on doing we have a percentage of the total cost, then everybody is adding up and trying to make bigger and more. And actually that's the opposite of what we need to do. So it's also to our own way of thinking, way of working, and to make our, still a good living, of course, and make money, but not in this way.
Brilliant. Martin,
I'm sorry to. What we did is we have to tender everything in a European tender procedure, and what we did in the last tendering procedure was to ask all the contractors that wanted to buy in that they need to give us a clue how they are going to help us to reach our goals for 2030, and they really did their best efforts, and we know that they have to deliver, but we have to do our part as well. So we started 1st of April, and it's a tough ride, but it's getting somewhere, and it's really stimulating these contractors to come with different solutions, and we really leave the how question. We just know what we need, and they will tell us how to make it, and that's really something that's going to work out, like it.
So it's about asking the right question.
It's about asking the right questions.
Asking the right questions. And I think that's a brilliant note. All of you go away and ask the right questions.
Many thanks again to all our contributors from last year, and to you for listening and being part of this circular transition for the built environment. We really look forward to seeing you at the NDSM in Amsterdam this November. Do visit the website www.wastebuild.com and keep an eye out for the next release of content from the 2019 event and our brand new audio content coming soon. So until next time, stay safe and bye-bye.